Hey, everybody. Welcome. Come on in. We got some playoffs to talk about. Welcome to the Cluster Puck Podcast,
All
part of
right.
the MHRT Network here at Center Ice. I am Nick. Join me, as always, is Britt. How's it going, Britt?
Good. I wasn't sure if I was gonna be let in here or not. The thing was
Sorry,
moving.
that was kind of on me.
No, it's good. I'm glad you are allowing me to join you.
We need you here because this
Oh,
episode,
man.
Britt, is our 100th episode. How about
Woo!
that? We made it 100 episodes,
That's
and I
awesome.
still haven't been kicked off the podcast.
Yeah, if we did, there would no longer be a podcast. So
Oh, hush.
yeah,
You
I
have
can't believe 100. That's a lot of podcasts
a
for
lot of
to
podcasts, a
join
lot
us.
of Avalanche talk, and guess what? There's always something to talk about. We always know how to fill it exactly right to the hour, 45 minutes, however long we need it to be, we
Yeah,
get it there. So we appreciate everyone for joining us on this special episode. Been an interesting couple of years, obviously we don't want to get too much into ourselves, but I remember when this podcast first started, Britt, you and I were about as inexperienced as could be when it came
yeah,
to the world of podcasting. Obviously, you still had your MCing with the Muskies there, but being a public face, being a
yeah,
public figure, stuff like that, it's kind of just, what do you do? You
yeah,
know?
yeah. We
So,
just like talking abs enough, I guess, that we figured just wing it anyway.
yep. So it's been a pretty fun 100 episodes. I don't see any signs of slowing down. It's been super fun. So in this episode, Britt, since we're talking about accomplishments, things, for example, that we have done these 100 episodes, we wanted to kind of also take a nod for other accomplishments within the league that we have seen, and then we'll kind of get into the nitty gritty about playoffs. That's right. The Colorado Avalanche have struck the first round chord with the Dallas Stars and will face them in Dallas starting tomorrow, as you're seeing this, Saturday, April 19th. And then we'll kind of get into that playoff round and kind of go from there. So, as far as accomplishments are concerned, I know last week we talked about the return of Gabe Landeskog, and he did, in fact, play with the Colorado Eagles a couple of games. And guess what? He even scored a power play goal in the
Wow.
same
That's
usual spot.
quintessential
Britt,
Landeskog goal.
in the most common way he could possibly do it. And I couldn't have been more just over the moon about the fact that not only was it a power play goal, not only was he actually going in there and participating, playing meaningful minutes
He was
down this.
pissy.
He was getting chippy. He was kind of getting physical, and I was like, "Oh, Gabe, whoa, hang on now." But
He
he said he's
was.
going to
He was
wait.
talking smack and riding people into the boards. He had a couple, whitewashes. He was rubbing his glove in faces. He's ready to be back.
He is, and I cannot express this enough. Excuse me, how much fun I am going to have watching him come back. Now, the only thing, Britt, that I haven't quite pinned down, I don't know if maybe you've heard something else. Is he coming back for game 1 of this series or game 3?
I feel pretty comfortable in assuming at this point that they are going to bring him back for game 3. I think they really want to gain the most vibes as possible, and I think they think the best way to do that is by having him return at home in Ball Arena. It's just unfortunate that the game is going to end up being delayed because they're going to blow the freaking roof off that building. I mean, the Eagles game, I was saying they almost should have just moved that to Ball Arena and sold 1 billion tickets. It almost wasn't fair, the advantage that the Eagles got from that.
It really didn't feel like it.
But I even on Flow Hockey with, mediocre camera streaming, I cried. I'm not even like ashamed or anything. I straight up cried tears watching it on a crappy video feed. So I can't even imagine what it's going to be like. And I think that I like the idea of holding on to it till they're at home. I wish they would have had home ice to start with, but it'll be nice to have a good brace and a good feel for how this series is going to go anyway. And then I feel like I think it's a good decision. That's my understanding. I feel safe in that assumption right now.
Yeah, and I agree with you there, where it's like, I think game 3 is going to be the most impactful, I would say. Mm-hmm. It's going to be up to the team, obviously, to take care of those first 2 games. I don't want to show my cards for the next segment too much, but I think game 3 is going to be that one where you're right. When he steps on the ice after 3 full seasons of not playing, I also too got really emotional, even seeing him in the Eagles capacity, that first shift, that everything, it kind of all accumulated, and it felt weird, honestly, seeing him out there, because it's like you haven't seen him for so long, and then let alone starting him. So it was different, but you eventually got used to the look, because you're like, man, that just looks so natural.
Yeah,
you adapt.
Sure. Does Alan Roach always announce Eagles games, or if that was just
not always, as far as I'm aware? This was they got Alan specifically for this one, because I don't think he was in the second game that they got him. Okay. But yeah, he took the time to come up to Loveland, and he's a great
lineups. You can't have a better voice announcing.
You can't. Yeah, and the fact that he still travels from Denver to Minnesota to do the Vikings games and stuff like that, he's an incredible voice. So that's Gabe Landeskog. He's back, and I just can't explain how excited I am.
Bednar's words today, Mr. Wagner said that Gabriel Landeskog is an option for this series, and it's right? Dude.
Of course he's an option.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's kind of the news on Gabe Landeskog and his amazing feat of basically coming back from an injury they thought was unsolvable.
Yeah,
and he did it. It took him 3 years.
So I mean, it's pretty awesome that he's setting new pathways, different options for players, that your career isn't necessarily over. I don't know if that there are many people with the willpower that he has and the true desperate love for hockey like he has that would put in as much work as he did the last few years, but at least that your career is not over.
Yeah.
If you have to get this surgery.
Yep, I think so. And it was a long path. It was a lot of stress. There were some setbacks that happened, obviously. But I think with him being the flagship player and showing that you can come back from it, at least he's shown that he's made it to this point, and I'm pretty sure he's going to play at least a game. It just shows that the medical team behind him, and Lonzo Ball on the basketball end, it's shown that it's effective. It works.
And now they probably have new ways to fine tune it and make it recovery more fine tuned for hockey. So hopefully he's setting new precedents and making other people's lives easier in the future.
Yep, I think that's exactly right. Okay, so from one accomplishment to another, captain to captain. This one I kind of threw as more of a personal note on mine. I don't know if people could see by the thumbnail on this video, but there is also a little clip out of Logan Couture. I just wanted to take a time to recognize his accomplishments as well. I understand this is an Avalanche podcast, but at the same time, he was just like Landeskog in that injury plagued him, and unfortunately, the adverse side of this is just a few days ago, he called it a career and decided to retire because of an injury that he just couldn't shake. And it hurts because he was one of my favorite players, right? So I'm putting a little bit of my flavor into this episode. I understand that, but you gotta look at accomplishments.
People have been watching the game, and to me, he's just, for some reason, he's like 25 in my brain. I don't know why. He's young, but 15 or 16 years he's been in the NHL.
Yeah, and he was Mr. Playoff, from what I remember. We wanted to recognize that all those accomplishments, especially that particular moment in Game 7 against Vegas when they scored 4 goals and basically 4 minutes on that power play. And they go on to win Game 7 with Barclay Goodrow and all that. And Logan Couture kind of spearheaded that San Jose Sharks comeback. So we just wanted
never got
sorry,
one.
go ahead.
Never got one. It's really sad.
That is the sad part, because he did so well in the playoffs, but
So
just
good Sharks teams,
just fell short on one.
There's my dog's butt, everybody.
It's okay, and it's okay. She understands she wants to be in the episode, so we'll let her be. So anyway, we just wanted to send out our congratulations on our wonderful career to Logan Couture.
And that's like everything injury. There's, other than a knee, back, and neck, like a groin injury, that's not something that you can play through. I mean, hockey is like one of the most core abusing sports that there are. And I can't even imagine him trying to push through and all the different ways that he's tried to rehabilitate through that. It sounds very painful. I can't remember what the name of it was, but it's like a relentlessly inflamed middle of your pelvic area, isn't it? Like your groin.
Yeah, kind of the undergroin kind of area, pelvic bone. He just said he was been in so much pain, and I guess during the press conference, which I watched and wept through, by the way, he said that he kind of knew that the end was there since about December, and
he hasn't played much in the last
years. He didn't play at all this season. He really was trying to make a comeback. He didn't play at all this season. He played 6 games last season, but the pain became too great, and that was kind of middle of the season, January, February-ish. But that's just kind of one of the sad things about this sport is great players can be, their career can be cut short because of these injuries, and we've seen it plenty of times. I think of Matt Calvert on the Avalanche. How he had a lot of promise. He wasn't like the Mr. Go and score it, but he had so much potential. But all these concussions,
absolutely, really one of the most beloved personalities I think in the Avs in the last 15 years.
Yeah,
they got just a heart and soul guy.
Yeah, exactly. And his career, because of concussions, got cut short. And so obviously us in Avalanche world, we can relate to this in at least some capacity to some degree. So
it's just not a sport that allows you much forgiveness in playing through injuries. Like, if there's just so many different ways that your body can literally force you out of the game because it's too demanding.
Yeah, you're exactly right. So we just wanted to kind of come on here, take a little bit of time as at least to congratulate Logan on a wonderful career. I for sure, I'm taking this a little harder than others because he was one of my favorites of all time.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you got to do what's best for you and your family.
Like, the Sharks are in such a good, happy time right now, and just getting out of the dark times. And it sure would have been nice for him to be able to be more involved when they're having so much fun. You know what I mean? That's such a great time to be a Shark, I think. Next 5 years,
they're going to have a really, really fun organization, at least, in the next 2 years, maybe even next year if they retool correctly. They have so many good young players that it's unfathomable. And kind of, I think Randy Hahn did say it best when they are the most fun last place team you will ever see.
I mean, it's basically the tale of 2 rebuilding teams is Chicago and the Sharks. Mm-hmm. I mean, Chicago's not having any fun, and the Sharks are
just like, we're last place. What are you going to do about it?
And that's the foundation of a team that's going to succeed in their rebuild. So it's a shame
that team chemistry is going to be through the roof, and it's going to be led by Macklin Celebrini, Will Smith, and Willie Meckland.
Do you suppose that the captaincy will go to Toffoli for a couple of years, and he's got?
I feel like it might, because I don't think they're going to deal Toffoli. They need that veteran leadership. In fact, another 30-goal season for him. So I wouldn't be surprised.
Like he deserves it.
I think so as well. He's
signing with them as like a.
I could see either that or maybe at Marc-Edouard Vlasic for a year, because obviously he's been a lifelong
Shark.
He's a
sweetheart too.
So it'll be interesting for sure to see kind of what happens there. But obviously, we'll kind of cover the Avs as well as the rest of the league throughout the offseason. So we'll kind of keep tabs on what happens with other teams as well.
Yeah.
Speaking of other teams and achievements for them, we talked also last week that we were going to brush up on the Alexander Ovechkin news. Obviously, everyone should know by now that he did break Wayne Gretzky's record of 894 goals. He scored his 895th. He's now on and scored a few more. But he did
not many more though, man.
Not many more.
The second they got
I think as soon as he got the record, he was kind of like, all right, now I'm going to kind of go to save mode for the playoffs, and he kind of toned it down for sure. But he did it, Britt. Like a record they thought would never be broken ever. And he went out and did it.
Yeah,
it took him 21 seasons to do it. So if you're going to go after that record, that's how long you're going to have to be in the league. But how? Like, this is amazing.
I don't know. And that's what people have talked about, Austin Matthews doing it. But when you consider how long of a career he had and how little time he, spent injured, he had the couple lockouts and COVID, but like even Matthew this year, he's only putting up, I think he's only got like 35 goals. He's not putting up a whole lot. So it's incredible what you have to do for 20 years to achieve it. It's going to be interesting to see if feels like the only other type that could beat it is somebody who just scores an insane amount of goals for a shorter number of years. Because I don't know if they make people that can last that long in the NHL anymore.
No, I think you're right. So it's got to be. I think Matthews, having scored all these goals to begin with, he could do it. But again, he would have to be just at a high clip every single year. We're talking 50, 60 goals. Rocket Richard basically every single season. And he can't get injured either.
No, and that's what until he broke his leg, he'd only missed like. Was it less than 20 games? It was insane.
Not a lot, which was amazing.
He had an amazing montage played at the Penguins game the other night. Did you see that? And then the whole crowd at Pittsburgh Penguins Arena was yelling Ovi, and Crosby.
Insane.
Yeah, Crosby gave him they gave him a Rolex. It's amazing. As much as like people might think that the game is soft, blah, blah, blah. It's so amazing to see how good the hockey legends are to each other at the end of their careers. When you saw like Ovi with Fleury, and I mean, Fleury's this crew of like truly next level legends that I just don't know if we're ever going to see the same type of group as the Ovi, Sid, Fleury, this outgoing, they're just incredible people. It's honestly really special. And it makes me so sad that they're all just about done.
Yeah. And that's the sad part too, is because, Ovechkin has one more year left on his contract. Obviously he said, I'm not retiring yet, when they thought of, talked about one last time with Sid and blah, blah, blah. But at the same time, you got to believe he's going to kind of follow good on his promise and go to the KHL at least for a year and retire there.
Yeah.
So you have to think that next season is it, know. So he'll probably eclipse 900, and then however many he ends up with, 929, whatever. And that's it. That's the end of the Ovechkin era. So it's kind of one of those moments. So like when we watched Ovechkin break the record, it was myself, my brother, and my wife all sat around this little phone. We didn't have the TV on. We couldn't get the TV on, and so we just sat there with this little phone and watched it happen, because you only get to witness that type of history once.
For sure.
And
that was like, it was being discussed. So it was so far beyond just hockey. Like that was such an incredible moment. Whether people liked hockey or not, there was a lot of people talking about, I don't know if you saw Subban get in an argument. Who did he argue with? One of the football commentators or basketball, about whether LeBron was more impressive than Ovechkin. It was just funny, but it's definitely bigger than just a hockey game and a
Yep.
hockey record.
Yep, you're exactly right.
Those games.
So again, we want to wish a
You guys screaming
congratulations.
at the phone?
What's that?
Were you guys screaming at a phone in public?
Oh, we very much were. Yeah, there wasn't a TV available, so we're all just sitting there. We put it up against a flower pot on a table, and we're all just kind of leaned into it because as soon as that power play went on, we stopped anything, any conversation we were having and just focused
It
right
was
in on the
so
phone.
nice that it was like a good OV goal. It wasn't a cheap.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It was kind of right. It was right in his office, or at least just a little behind, actually, believe it or not.
Yeah.
But it was a classic OV goal. It happened to be against Sorokin, who had not let in an OV goal before.
Yes.
So that little list of 29 went down to 28.
Yeah.
And they stopped the game for like 25 minutes. And
no, I can't believe they let him. It was like a
incredible.
long time, but you gotta. Did you watch afterwards when Sorokin brought him his stick and told him that he would give him his glove too, and then brought out a stack of pucks for Ovi's sign?
Sign for the team. Yeah, it was great.
Cute.
It was pretty great. So again, it's one of those where you like you can't be upset with this kind of moment. Even Sorokin has taken it very well, because he's going to go down in history as the guy that let it in.
Could you
but
imagine?
At the same time,
it was a good goal. And not
it was. But at the same time, you look at everyone else he's scored against, and if one of them just blocks one shot, then it doesn't fall on Sorokin. So you gotta kind of pile him just on top of every other goalie that has let one in.
Yeah.
So
apparently he had a appearance on the Pat McAfee show, which I didn't watch it, but apparently it's really, really good talk with Ovi. So
that's true. He was featured on the Pat McAfee show. So anyway, we wanted to wish our congratulations for that achievement. Not very often can you
no,
you
probably won't say that for another 30 years.
That's right. Not very often can you say you hold the record for the most goals scored in NHL history.
Yeah.
So you think a 100th episode celebration's big? Yeah, look at that history, and then you'll kind of put it into perspective.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's going to kind of wrap up our version of the achievements. Not necessarily matching our achievement, but we kind of feel just the same. We feel like we've hit a good a good landmark as well. So I wanted to wish Alex Ovechkin and the rest of the Capitals congratulations on an awesome career and having him on such a good team for so many years. Mm-hmm. Okay, that being said, the Capitals are now gearing up for the playoffs, as are the Colorado Avalanche. They are tasked with the round one best of 7 series against the Dallas Stars. Okay, Britt. First things first, we got to kind of address this. The Dallas Stars are not the same Dallas Stars as they were about 2-3 months ago. Yeah. A lot of injuries have plagued this team. So what do you think first is the Avalanche's task to get past the Stars, knowing this in these next few games? How do you think they get it done?
I just think that a lot of it is going to come down to goaltending, as long as they don't collapse. And I think that Natchez and Nelson, the Dallas is going to have to hone in on McKinnon, like always, McKinnon and Makar. So it's up to our new role players to truly perform. And a lot of them have a chip on their shoulder. Guys like Natchez and has Blackwood even, I don't think he's even played in the playoffs yet in his career.
I think you're right.
Brock Nelson, has he ever done anything substantial in the playoffs? It's nice having a crew that's hungry, and a lot of them haven't won a Stanley Cup or even gone far into the playoffs, unlike bringing it back, our guys that we brought back the following year. I think it's good. I love the saying, you're not hungry when you're already full. So I think that having such a huge crew of guys that are hungry is going to be really important for them to show up, because Dallas has to focus on Makar and McKinnon. And if they're busy focusing on them, that's when, the other guys can do some damage.
Yeah. My big thing, especially with this matchup, not only is Robertson is week to week. He's for sure going to miss game 1. I think they said it's the
Sounds
same
like
thing.
it might be a torn ACL.
It looked pretty bad. He was in a brace leaving that last game of the season for Dallas. Obviously not something that we're cheering for or anything, but it gives you an advantage.
I just want to say this. I don't feel bad at all. I don't feel like us winning this with them having injured and out players.
Absolutely not.
I'm so sick of people acting like if the Avs win, it's going to be some like gutless win. It's like every series that we have lost to Dallas in the last 5 years or however many times we have played them, we have played with absolutely decimated rosters, emotional roller coasters. We took them to 7 games with Michael Hutchison in net. I don't care if they're playing their whole AHL team. I am going to have just as much pride in a win in this series as if we are playing their whole entire starting crew. I don't care. I just don't care. And I will not have any guilt, and I will argue with people on Twitter about whether we should feel any shame.
You would go to war with that, Britt, and I applaud you for it. Well, and that's just it though, is it's not like the Avalanche planned for this. It's not like they purposely. It's not like they knew.
Like we've played with the healthy roster in literal years.
Yeah, it's like they didn't know this Robertson is going to happen on the last game of the season. They didn't know that Miro Heiskanen was going to have issues earlier in the season. They didn't. That's just kind of how the golf course is built, right? That's the team you're going to end up facing. You look at the Avalanche.
You have depth.
For the last 2 seasons, something happened with Val Nichushkin, and it threw the Avalanche off mentally, right? That's why they lost to the Seattle Kraken in that 1 year. That's why they lost to Dallas last year. So that's another kind of one of my keys is make sure nothing happens to Nichushkin. Put extra security personnel on him or something.
We are 7 or 8 guys deep.
And that's exactly right. We have won games with multiple like 4, 5, 6 goaltenders or something like that this season.
Oh my God!
Our injuries plagued us. We went through all kinds of not call it a retool, but a re-rostering throughout the entire season. And that's what happened to us. That's why we ended up in 3rd in the Central. That's why we ended up pulling Dallas when ultimately I feel like if the Avalanche even did that during the offseason last year, they would have been 1st place in the Central Division. So it's just, again, that's just how the season happened to go. You're faced with the team that's in front of you, and they have just as much of an opportunity to go out and win a series of 7 as you do. Right. Yeah. So that being said, this Dallas Stars team, they're not going to give up. They obviously want it more because they haven't won the cup in several decades at this point. And that's their drive, right? Both teams are going to be mad driven. Ottinger is going to play out of his mind. Why? Because that's how he is.
They have a smaller, not that their cup window is closing, but they've got a lot of pieces that are not secure right now. Going into next year, you've got like Matt Duchene. Matt Duchene has been an incredibly important part of their success for the last few years. They've got a lot of questionables for next year, and it's not do or die and never get back there again right now, but it's definitely not going to be any easier after this year. So there definitely has to be a feeling of urgency.
Yep, you're exactly right. So that being said, obviously I talked about Nichushkin. He needs to just.
I would imagine they're going to have him locked, like in literal handcuffs to somebody's.
No, seriously though, that's my other kind of bit to this. Not only series, but if they win it and go going on to the more postseason play and whatnot, you got to keep an eye on him like at all times, right? Because I don't want this to be the 3rd year in a row that something happens to him. He's all of a sudden gone, and the Avalanche are mentally checked out.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's an extra security guy.
I haven't heard anything yet, but I do think that that's going to be a huge part, especially in this series. Man, I would love to have Manson back because it's not above Jamie Benn to target Gabriel Landeskog. So
What do
I
you
would
mean?
really like to have the threat of Josh Manson on the bench.
Mm-hmm. You're exactly right. So that's kind of the nuts and bolts as far as who you're up against, what it's going to look like. So what are kind of we'll go to keys to the series, and then we'll go with our guesses as far as who wins and in how many games. So that being said, keys to the game for me, first of which is those that don't have deep playoff experience or any playoff experience need to get with the program as far as how Nathan MacKinnon and Cale Makar play postseason hockey, because they are relentless. They were about the only two players last season or during the Kraken series, I should say, that
Yeah.
actually tried. That like everyone else had checked out. They tried to keep the train on the tracks as best as they could, and they went full 100%.
It is nice knowing that we have Natchez now. It's going to be hard playing against Rantanen, but Natchez is a different speed. He is up there with MacKinnon. He's had some serious turnover issues lately, but I think with what you're saying, I think that he could truly be such a make or break if he can keep that speed with MacKinnon, and we could unlock a new level in both of them.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Especially with MacKinnon at the peak of his powers right now. I think MacKinnon and Cale are both better than they were during the Stanley Cup winning run.
Yeah. Obviously, Drouin has a little bit of experience now with kind of at least the second round.
Yeah.
Nelson he's been to the conference finals a couple times. Obviously, Natchez, he's got familiarity with the playoffs, but I'm talking about like your third and fourth liners, where it doesn't come to them as often, that type of experience. They need to make sure they match the same energy and output as Nathan MacKinnon, as Cale Makar.
He's going to be starting in that first game.
Kiviranta is going to get like 6 hat tricks during this
Kelly
series.
might have earned the spot a little bit more, but Kiviranta is going to be out there first game against Dallas.
Exactly. I think you're exactly right. So that's one key to the game, is making sure not only your players are up to the highest snuff, but that so is your goaltenders. This one is going to be the big question mark as far as my keys to the game.
The difference.
They don't have that playoff experience.
Yeah.
Right. I think obviously, Wedgwood probably in a backup role. Obviously, he kind of does.
Knowing that it doesn't feel uncomfortable should we have to go to Wedgwood.
Yeah. I think that's exactly it. Is at least
didn't feel good going on and in last year, at least for me. I know a lot of people thought that he was going to be some savior, but I did not feel great about it last year.
So both goaltenders have still played admirably throughout the finish of the season. Obviously, Wedgwood made a lot of incredible saves. He's kind of more the razzle dazzle if I were to give it kind of a title. But
they both just seem so much more emotionally secure than
they feel like they have the confidence that Georgiev and Annunen just didn't show. And Georgiev, he was the reason you got out of the first round last season. So don't get me wrong about him, but there was just something wavering throughout the beginning of this season. That's why they turned both goalies over and got 2 new ones.
Well, and the Sharks did. Georgiev came out and said that he's a free agent next year. The Sharks will not be re-signing.
Yeah, and which unfortunately doesn't really come to much of a shock, but it's still pretty sad to hear,
Yeah.
But
what he can do. It's just not on a regular basis.
That's just kind of how it is. Yep, and that's exactly what Blackwood and Wedgwood can do, is produce those solid games,
serviceable on a more stable.
And obviously they have kind of duds here and there. So does everyone, right? But you don't lose confidence moving from Wedgwood to Blackwood or vice versa, or whoever's starting in net for the series. You're like, hey, awesome. Like you're not like, oh my gosh, what are we thinking? You're happy with either one, and that was kind of similar to what happened during the Cup run. Is you had Kemper, and you're like, awesome, yeah, he's been starting most of the games anyway. He's been great, we're rocking with him.
Right.
Well, then he gets injured in that Nashville series, and then Francouz has to come in and play cleanup, and then he plays the entire Edmonton series, the Western Conference Finals, and they sweep him. And you had no confidence lost between Kemper and Francouz.
No, I
Same
mean,
kind of
it
sentiment
had
here.
pretty much convinced us that we were ready to declare Francouz the starting goaltender the following year, knowing that we wouldn't be able to afford Kemper after.
Yep. That's
Which,
exactly
God,
it.
if he could have stayed healthy and we could have played with him for $2 million, could you imagine?
Boy, howdy. That would have been amazing. That was, and now look, Kemper's friggin' a Vezina. He's going to be a Vezina finalist.
Absolutely. He should be
How
the
about,
number
how
2
about
for
that? That's just nuts.
100% number 2 for Vezina.
Yeah, he could be, but the problem is if Connor Hellebuck's already a Hart candidate.
Oh, there's no taking Vezina out of Hellebuck. Better not win the freaking.
We'll bring that up here in a little bit, but I feel like you and I might have a little disagreement.
We'll see.
You
weird me out,
means,
man.
you know what that means, right? We get to go to fist fights. That's where I lose.
Take a rain check.
There you go. Anyways, so obviously Ottinger on the Dallas side, he's got plenty of experience. In fact, he becomes their saving grace a lot of the time.
But
so you have to. And that's just it, though, is if he is the only reliance, at some point he will break. Right. So it's not only playing this series with 60
He's
minutes
been playing like crap down the stretch right now. The whole Dallas as a whole,
all of Dallas, they're going into this series on a 7-game losing streak.
And Ottinger is definitely one of the causes of that. So
yes.
So that's why I think my one key point: score early and score
often,
loudly. Yeah. But
Yep.
scoring early and getting him off immediately will be so big.
Exactly. So that brings me to my last key to the game, and that is going to be home crowd. Obviously, Dallas is going to bring a lot of energy. We know how they are in a ruckus atmosphere that they have down there. You have the big takeaway here that you need to do is you need to go in there and take one of the 2 games, no matter what.
And that's what's nice is keeping Gabe out and putting him out on game 3. Even if we were to drop both games, it's not too late in the series to take it back and utilize that, that energy. But it would be really nice to come back with 1 win, at least. Not that I don't have faith that we can't win both, but coming back home with 1 win and then being able to gain momentum from there on our home rink, I think that would be the best. It would help a lot.
Exactly. And you even look at what Dallas is going through now and kind of their momentum that they're bringing into the playoffs versus what the Avalanche are doing, right? It's not impossible for them to go in and get both of these. No. So that brings up another question, kind of side question for you, Britt. Which do you think is more impactful when it comes to momentum of a series? When you're up 2-0 or when you're up 3-1?
I think 3-1. I think that when you're having to look at it and you look at a series and you see every game you're fighting for your life, you have to play 3 games fighting for your life. That's exhausting just to stay in it, not even guaranteeing that, you know what I mean? You have to play 2 games in desperation mode is not, especially when you're going in. Dallas was at the top of the odds almost the entire year, and now the news is nothing but talking about their injuries and their plummeting chances. I mean, there is nothing positive being said about Dallas right now, and that's got to be really depressing when you consider that they have essentially been the top dogs the entire year. No matter where they've been in the standings, I think that they've been Stanley Cup favorites almost since before the season started. And I have been terrified of them this entire year. This is truly the first period in which I felt that they were not easy, but very conquerable for the Avs.
But beatable. Yeah, that's right. I'm going to go out on a little branch, though, and I'm going to say that I feel like a 2-0 series lead.
That's fair.
And again, both of which are, it's apples to oranges, right? So it's hard to say that. But to me, especially if it's in an away setting, right? For example, if the Avs go into American Airlines Arena down there in Dallas, and they take both games.
That's
Those were home
demoralizing,
games. That
right?
is momentum just sucked right out of the building, and now you head to your place with
Yeah.
a whole bunch of confidence, a whole bunch of steam.
And that's
So,
what
and
we are just, I mean, I can't think of a single time in NHL history where there have been more of like a presence, an emotionally driven presence within a crowd than what it's going to be when Landeskog is back.
mhm.
I mean, and I know that I'm biased, but there are so many people loudly excited for this that don't like the Avs, that do not. I mean, there's even Dallas fans that are riding high on that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's unprecedented how important that game 3 will be.
Oh, no kidding. And that's, at least in this particular situation, that's where I think a 2-0 lead would be massive in this
Yeah,
type of
it would
in this
feel like
type
a
of
guarantee. It would be
exactly.
insane if we lost that home game. With the team
It
that
would.
we have, there's no excuse for them not to be able to.
Oh yeah, and that's just it. Is the locker room vibes now that the captain's back, now that the band's back together, so to speak,
Mhm.
and say what you will, that's going to be just
And when
fuel,
you think
you
about
know.
how depressing it's going to be for Rantanen, I mean, it's just so hard to think that he is going to be able to play a good game. I don't think that he's the kind of guy that plays FU games in the way that a Matt Duchene performs in an
Hmm.
FU way, a way that McKinnon. Rantanen's not an FU game thriver. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And there's just different personality types. I think it might truly crush him. And it hurts my heart for him to think
Oh,
about
absolutely.
him being on the other side of this scenario. He's been waiting for Gabe Landeskog to come back for years too. And he left just on the brink of,
His comeback.
Rantanen is one of his
Yep.
best friends, and he's going to be in his home. I mean, essentially, Ball Arena is still home. I don't care where he's playing.
Oh,
That's
sure.
his home arena for the team that drafted him. So excited, and he's not a part of it. I mean, it, honest to God, crushes my heart.
Yeah, and it's sad to see that he's on the other side of that ice he's been on the team for, what was it, 11 years, 10 years, I think is what it was. Like, his life was there. So it's going to be interesting, obviously, his comeback to Ball Arena in a playoff setting, being on the other side of things. But at the same time, I'm going to say this, knock on wood, right? He can't be the sole reason Dallas stays alive.
And now
Right.
with Robertson out, holy bananas, man.
It takes a large blow to that Dallas organization. You hate to see it, but again,
And
that's
they
just how
traded
the cards
Singleton,
are.
and losing him, it still surprises me that they
It
traded
is.
him.
It is. So that's just kind of how the cards have turned.
Mhm.
So again, you got to get in there, ignore whatever noise is coming through. Obviously, they're going to have a ton of fan support, all that kind of stuff. You got to take at least one of these. It would be much better if you took the first game, so that way you could at least try and achieve the second. If not,
Mhm.
that's fine. You at least have game 1 in your pocket going into now your turf for games 3 and 4. Um,
And
so
it'll be
so
nice because even if we lost the first two, we would just crush their momentum coming to our building in game
I
3.
would like to think so too. Actually, I
Yeah.
think that would be an accurate statement, because not, again, with Landeskog coming back and all those things we talked about earlier, it's going to be just nuts.
Yeah.
It's a
And it's not
different
like
vibe
it's something
entirely.
that they can rally against. It's not like a rival type thing that the Avs fans will be worked up about that they can use as a chip on their shoulder. It's hard to rally against and like get angry about. We're just happy about us, it's not something that they can utilize to manufacture. You know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Yep, I think that's right. Okay, so with all that being discussed, with all that being said, it's time to give our predictions for round 1 of the 2025 Stanley Cup playoffs against the Dallas Stars. Britt, do you want to go first, or do you want me to? Mine's going to
You
be
can go.
okay.
I hate
Mine's
predictions.
mine is on the bolder side, but I'm gonna play. There's my bold, and then there's my safe bold.
Okay.
So
I feel
I'm
like
gonna play
we
my
might end up being on the same on this. We'll see.
I'm gonna play my safe bold choice, but I think the Avalanche win this series in 5 games.
Yeah. Okay. Same. That's where I'm at too. I think that they may have one little fluky, and I think
It'll be my guess is it'll be game
plus with
2.
a second game at home. Yeah, or
Yep.
away. I mean, yep. That's
Yep.
exactly what I think. And then we'll come back home, and that's all she wrote.
That's kind of my idea of it too. Is I think you split the 2 home games in Dallas. You take the first one, you drop the second one because they're angry, obviously.
And I
You
think it'll
then
be
go to Ball Arena, you get the 2 of them, and by then Dallas is hanging on by a thread, and you punch your ticket to the next round.
I think there will be at least one ass kicking by us in there.
I'd like to believe that'd be game 3.
Yeah.
I'd like to believe
And I
that.
do think that they'll rally back, but I don't want to get overly confident, but I would not be surprised if we swept them. I genuinely wouldn't, but
and
I wouldn't
that's
be surprised if they took us to 7 either. That's
that's just how these things go. We could be completely wrong about everything, and you know it.
To me, this is as much of the Stanley Cup as any of the series would be. Honestly, Stanley Cup deserving. I will have to see how Dallas looks after the first one. They're going to be better than what they've been down the stretch, but
I'm sure. Yep. And you were exactly right, though. That's my bold prediction, is that an Avalanche sweep happens in the first round, because Dallas just cannot cope with the injuries that have piled up, the momentum they had going into the playoff. Excuse me. So that's my bold
prediction. Last year, where it's like, who's injured today? You know, every single game is just looking at who's going to be added to it, who's not coming back, who's comes back for one game and plays terrible. It really feels a lot like where we were last year.
Yeah. So it's gonna be a fun and exciting series, I'm sure. Obviously, none of them are going to be runaways. Maybe one. I think that game 3 feels like it needs to be, if it's going to be poetic, you know.
Oh, for sure.
But they're going to be close games either way. But I just see right now the Avalanche have the upper hand, given those injuries, given the momentum that Colorado's coming in versus what Dallas is coming in with. To me, it just leans in the Avalanche.
Momentum is so important in the playoffs.
Yep, it is. So that's those are our guesses as far as kind of what the Avs are going to do, how they move on. So let us know, everyone. DM us, send us a message, however you want to do, as far as what you think the Avalanche are going to do in these playoffs, how many games it's going to take them, etc. We'd love to hear your guys' feedback. That being said, that's going to be it, I believe, for us, Britt, unless you had anything else you wanted to add.
I don't think so.
Okay, perfect. Just a couple of housekeeping items then. No episode next week. I will be out of country, believe it or not.
It's the only good excuse for being gone during
that's good. Well, and that's the hard part, though, is I'm the timing. I was like, I can't believe we timed it right over round 1. Like I would just. But we're gonna have access to the to a TV, so we're gonna be able to see the games. But I'm not gonna be able to get the podcast because I don't want to pay for a stupid internet on a cruise ship. So no episode next week. So the next time we chat, series is gonna come and go, and we'll see what happens in that time frame. There might be a chance where I think their game 7 happens after we get back, so maybe we do one before a game 7 if it ends up going to that. If not, we'll talk about the series, what went right, hopefully, or what went wrong, unhopefully, as you'd say. But I think, again, it's playoff hockey. It's some of the best times of the year, during the season. Obviously, the main season, the regular season is gone. That means the end of hockey is near, but it also means the best is yet to come.
This series, are there any more series with more intrigue than this one? Like in the first round right now, are any other series going to be even close to as entertaining as this one should be.
I would say the only other one that I could think of is Edmonton, LA.
Yeah, because the Kings are going to win it. And it's going to
Just
be wild.
hopefully, but just because it's like the 4th time in a row and all yada yada yada. I also think the Tampa and Florida series is going to be wildly entertaining as well. But
I keep
as
coming
far
back
as like
it, I am almost completely sold that if we make it back to the Stanley Cup Finals, it's going to be us in Tampa. It really.
Oh, you think it's a rematch, huh?
It feels more and more like it every day, especially with the way that Vasilevsky's playing. It's hard. I know that the whole thing is don't write Tampa off. You can't write Tampa off, but it's a combination of the East being so wishy-washy and Tampa seems to be hitting their stride at the right time. And that's what they do. That's what they know well. They've mastered it.
Yeah.
That's truly the regular season don't mean anything.
Yeah, that's kind of Tampa's MO is just not make it into the postseason and then turn it up to 11. So
it would be wild to see that rematch again.
Just have to see. Okay, well, thank you everyone for joining us on this centennial 100th episode of the Cluster Puck podcast. I can't believe it. I'm still just
go through and like finger count them down the thing, or have we been labeling?
No, so I went back to the very beginning when we were releasing these on YouTube and stuff like that, and I went back. And,
do you just have a feeling we were close?
No, I once we got the new format of thumbnails, I started to number them how we have been.
Oh, okay.
So I caught up at like
funny
79 or something like that. I can't remember, but then we kind of took
I don't know how I missed that. I guess I don't watch this on YouTube very often though, so
you don't go back and just look at yourself and be like, wow, I'm a celebrity.
Hearing my own voice.
Nick is lucky to have me.
I can't stand watching myself. It's I feel bad.
I've long stopped doing those because it used to be where I'd look and be like, okay, what am I doing wrong? That kind of stuff. But then it felt weird.
Yeah.
So I kind of stopped too. So anyway, thank you everyone for joining us on our 100th episode of the Cluster Puck podcast. Much more to come. Obviously, we love doing these for you. We love talking Avalanche hockey. It's what we like to say we do best. So we'll keep doing it. If you like what you saw, don't forget to like and subscribe and follow the MHRT network so you can get notified when shows like the Cluster Puck podcast go live. You can do so on the various social media platforms of your choosing. And if you want to follow us, we ask that you do so at the Cluster Puck podcast on Facebook and at Cluster Puck Avs on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads. With that being said, it's round 1 of playoff hockey for the Colorado Avalanche against the Dallas Stars. Next time we talk, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, hopefully we'll be moving on.
Let's hope so. Fingers crossed. So with that being said, have a great Easter weekend, everybody. And as always, go Avs, go.
Fast lane when I pass in the street, bag of money in the passenger seat. Tempo's been asking for me on the road from the west to the east. Way up, I might never come down, cause the coast's racking up the flight miles. So high, I might never come down, so what, this is my lifestyle.